Leaders of the trade unions here, and I'm very glad and pleased that also Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg was able to participate this meeting. We will discuss, of course, about the situation in Ukraine,
Stoltenberg, el secretario general de la OTAN, y también Sanna Marin, la primera ministra de Finlandia, justo antes de comenzar esta reunión.
Security policy in Europe more widely, and I'm very glad that Jens was able to participate and give his notes on the topical issues that we will discuss about. But further ado, I would like to give the floor to you, and then I think that the media might have some questions for us.
Thank you so much, Sanna. It's great to be back in Helsinki. It's great to be back in this building and meet with the leaders of the social democratic parties and the trade unions of the Nordic countries. This is actually a forum I used to participate in myself for many, many years. But now I'm here as Secretary General of NATO, and of course we meet at a critical time for our security. The war in Ukraine against Ukraine grinds on, and there are no signs that he's changing his plans. He wants to control Ukraine, and he is not planning for peace, he's planning for more war. And therefore it is extremely important that we provide support to Ukraine. I commend the strong support that Finland has provided to Ukraine. This makes a difference on the battlefield every day. Then I also meet later on today President Sauli Niinisto and Foreign Minister Pekka Haavisto. And in all my meetings today, I expect that the issue of Finnish and the Swedish membership will be an important topic. And as you all know, all NATO allies made an historic decision to invite both Finland and Sweden to become members of the alliance. We are making progress. A couple of weeks ago, I met with President Erdogan, and we agreed to have a meeting with Finland, Sweden, Turkey in Brussels next week. My message is that both Finland and Sweden have delivered on what they promised in the trilateral agreement they made with Turkey last June in Madrid. So the time is now to ratify and to fully welcome both Finland and Sweden as members. Thank you.
In Helsinki Sanomat to Mr. Stoltenberg, you said that we are making progress with Finland and Sweden. When do you expect that we can finally be members, and what is NATO and the allies doing concretely in order to make country?
So this is a top priority for NATO and for me personally. So we work hard, and we have to remember that so far this is Sweden. My message is that both Finland and Sweden have lived up to what they agreed to in the trilateral agreement. Let me add one more thing, and that is that Finland and Sweden are in a much better place now than before they applied, because as invitees, Finland and Sweden sit at the NATO table, are integrated into NATO's civilian and military structures. Several NATO allies have also provided bilateral security assurances. So it's inconceivable that there will be any threat against Finland or Sweden without NATO reacting. So I cannot give you an exact date, but we are working to make it happen as soon as possible.
Should NATO as an organization take an even more determined role in pushing Turkey's and Hungary's ratification rather than Finland, Sweden, Turkey?
Well, so first of all, decisions in NATO are made by consensus, and we have made the decisions we need to make as NATO already. We made them back in June when all 30 allies have made the decision to invite Turkey and invite Finland and Sweden as full members. And we made the decision as at 30 when we agreed the accession protocols. What remains now are decisions that have to be taken as individual allies. and that is the ratification in the national parliaments. That's not a decision that we can take together. It has to be taken in each and every capital. And so far 28 have ratified, 2 have not. But it is a priority for me, and we are working hard, and we are using the argument that, of course, it will be good for Finland and Sweden, but it will also be good for NATO, for all of us, to have Finland and Sweden as members as soon as possible.
Lauri Nurmi, Iltalehti Finland, question for Secretary General Stoltenberg. You are saying that Mr. Putin wants more war, not peace. So my question is, should NATO or specific NATO countries provide security guarantees to Ukraine? Otherwise, Russia will occupy Ukraine sooner or later. And Prime Minister Marin, please give also your comments on this issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, first, also what NATO allies and also partners as Finland and Sweden do, and also the European Union and many others, is that we are providing unprecedented level of military support to Ukraine. We are not party to the conflict, but we need to remember what this is. This is a war of aggression launched by President Putin against Ukraine. They have the right to defend themselves. That is right, which is enshrined in the UN Charter. And we have the right to help support Ukraine in upholding the right of self-defense. Then, of course, NATO also has another task, and that is to prevent escalation, prevent this from becoming a full-fledged war between Russia and NATO. And therefore, we have also increased our military presence in the eastern part of the alliance, also in the Baltic region, to send a clear message that an attack on a NATO ally will trigger a response from the whole alliance. The important thing now is to support Ukraine, and then no one can tell exactly when this war ends. But when it ends, we need to ensure that history doesn't repeat itself, that President Putin cannot continue to attack neighbors. And therefore, we need to strengthen the military capabilities of Ukraine, but also look for frameworks that can ensure that President Putin, Russia, doesn't invade Ukraine yet another time.
So security guarantees after the war, like what's its own role?
So what NATO allies have agreed that Ukraine will become a member of our alliance, but at the same time, that is a long-term perspective. What is the issue now is to ensure that Ukraine prevail as a sovereign independent nation, and that therefore we need to support Ukraine.
I see that the future of Ukraine is to be part of European Union and also member of NATO. We have taken many steps forward when it comes to military aid to Ukraine, and I'm very glad that we are now cooperating together much more closely to give Ukraine more heavy weapons. I think the discussion now, even though it's have taken some time, it's been very important concerning, for example, the Leopards. So countries are cooperating together more closely and more widely. And this is a very good thing. We have to support Ukraine as long as it takes. And they also need more heavy weapons. And the faster and the sooner we can give them more heavy weapons, the sooner the war will end. And this is something that we also need, that cooperation between the democratic countries. Finland has taken many decisions on armed support to Ukraine, and we are willing to continue this as long as it takes.
Norwegian newspaper Dagbladet. Prime Minister Marin, could you describe just why it's so important for Finland to become a full-fledged NATO member as soon as possible? And if you don't mind, what role Secretary General Stoltenberg has played in your membership pursuits?
The reason why we have applied NATO membership, it's very simple. NATO line is the only line that Russia wouldn't cross. And this was the question that we had to ask ourselves when Russia invaded, attacked brutally Ukraine. I'm also very glad that we have been able to work so closely with Sweden during the process. And of course, we see that both Finland and Sweden not only will have made this decision for our own interest, but it's also the NATO's interest that we will become members together simultaneously. We are sharing the same security environment. We are up here in the north, and we will also strengthen the whole defense of the northern part of Europe. We have many capabilities, and when you ask Finnish people, their willingness, and this is one example, their willingness to defend their own country, it's very high. I think it ranks number one or almost number one worldwide. We also have quite wide military forces in Finland because we have always invested in this. We know we have aggressive neighbor that we are now seeing also in Europe. And also Sweden have its own strength to give to NATO. For example, the military industry that they have is a big asset for also the whole alliance. And I think it's in NATO's interest to have both countries within the alliance as soon as possible. And I'm very glad and happy of the support that Jens personally have given during this process. And of course, the situation where all countries haven't ratified yet, it also, I think, gives a burden to NATO because we are fulfilling all the criteria. There shouldn't be any problems when it comes to our membership. And I'm hoping that this ratification will end as soon as possible, and also Turkey and Hungary will ratify very soon, before Vilna.
Thank you. Ida Hallikainen, Ilta-Sanomat. A question for Mr. Stoltenberg. If Finland and Sweden are NATO members in Vilna summit, how credible NATO's open door policy actually is? And if you allow me another question for both of you, are you disappointed in something in Finland's and Sweden's NATO process? Thank you.
So first of all, I'm absolutely confident that both Finland and Sweden will become members of NATO. Again, all allies, also Turkey, were part of the decision to invite Finland and Sweden to become members, and all allies, also Turkey, have signed the accession protocols. Finland and Sweden meet the criteria. They have delivered what they are supposed to do. And therefore my message has been for a long time, but also in Ankara, that the time has come to finalize the ratification process. The time is now to ratify both in Budapest and in Ankara. Then, of course, it is by the end of the day a Turkish decision when to ratify. We will continue to have close dialogue with Turkey because it is important to finalize this as soon as possible. The last question I have forgotten.
Yeah, are you disappointed in something in this process?
First of all, I would like to commend Finland for the courage, for the political leadership, for the ability to take decisions at the critical time for our security. And it demonstrates us that NATO's door is open because actually all allies have invited Finland and Sweden, and they will become members. And this will be good for NATO. It will be good for the Nordic, for the Baltic region. I visited Tallinn just a few days ago, and of course they understand the geography, the importance of having Finland and Sweden as full members. And then it will also be good for Finland and Sweden.
Well, of course, I hope, would have hoped to become members of NATO already. Finland and Sweden fulfill all the criteria, as has been mentioned, and we are yet waiting. And of course, this strains the open door policy of NATO as well. It's to do with NATO's credibility because we fill all the criteria. But as Jens mentioned, this is in the hands of Turkey and Hungary. And we are waiting for their process to finish, hopefully sooner than later, hopefully before Vilna's meeting in summer, but we don't know. It's in their hands.
Last question today.
Johan Palmes from TV2 Norway. It's a question for both of you. Hungary has signaled yet again a delay in its ratification process.
Bueno, vamos a repasar algunas de las declaraciones que de momento han hecho Stoltenberg y también Sanna Marin, la primera ministra finlandesa. Por ejemplo, lo que ha dicho Stoltenberg es que no hay ninguna señal de que Putin esté cambiando sus planes respecto a la guerra en Ucrania, a pesar de que ya hayan dicho desde Rusia que van a estudiar ese plan de paz de China. Dice que quiere controlar Ucrania, que Putin quiere controlar Ucrania y que eso, eso es el motivo, es el porqué de, el hecho de que la OTAN y, en definitiva, los países occidentales sigan mandando su apoyo militar también a Ucrania. Dice que Suecia y también de Finlandia. Además, también ha dicho que esta sería, de momento, sigue siendo, por el proceso en el que vamos, el acceso, la entrada de países a la OTAN más rápida de la historia. Y, por ejemplo, también ha dicho que Finlandia y Suecia están ahora en un mejor lugar que desde la OTAN. El secretario general insiste en que es clave, es muy importante que Suecia y Finlandia entren en la Alianza Atlántica. Además, también ha dicho que es inconcebible el hecho de que la OTAN no vaya a defender a estos dos países en el caso de que hayan sido
it comes to MFF. I think this has already shown strengths. It's in every European citizen's interest to make sure that rule of law is respected in every country, in Finland and in every member state. So I'm very happy that we were able, actually, when Finland held the presidency of European Council, we were able to connect these two elements, rule of law and MFF, how we use the EU budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bueno, pues ya ha terminado esa comparecencia de Sanna Marin, la primera ministra de Finlandia, y Stoltenberg, el secretario general de la OTAN, una comparecencia donde, bueno, han recordado lo importante que es que ambos países, que Suecia y Finlandia, entren en la OTAN. También ha dicho, por ejemplo, Stoltenberg, que es inconcebible que la OTAN no vaya a defender a estos países en el caso de que hubiera una agresión por parte de Rusia, y que la OTAN lo que tiene que hacer es prevenir una escalada de la tensión con Rusia. También ha dicho Stoltenberg que no hay señales de que Putin ahora mismo esté cambiando sus planes respecto a Ucrania y que lo que quiere es controlar el país y que no está preparándose para la paz, sino para más guerra, algo que ya dijo también la semana pasada Stoltenberg. Por eso dice que es importante que continúe el apoyo militar a Ucrania desde los países de la OTAN. Bueno, nos quedamos con estas palabras de Stoltenberg y también de Sanna Marin, de la primera ministra de Finlandia. Con esto nos despedimos, pero volvemos en un ratito a las 12:15. Vuelve a hablar Stoltenberg, vuelve a hablar el secretario general de OTAN, así que enseguida estamos de vuelta aquí para trasladarles también esas declaraciones.